Have you ever felt like your mind was a prison? A place where thoughts spiral endlessly, where peace seems like a distant dream, and where the simplest decisions become mountains to climb. Let me tell you about a moment that changed everything for me. I was standing in my kitchen, staring at a cup of coffee growing cold. 2 hours had passed, 2 entire hours, while I was lost and thought about a simple email I needed to send. 2 hours of my precious life consumed by an endless loop of what-ifs and maybes. In that moment, I realized something profound. My overthinking wasn't just a habit. It was stealing my life one moment at a time. Look around this room. I see many of you nodding. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That familiar dance with your thoughts where one concern leads to another, then another, until you're so far down the rabbit hole that you can't even remember what started it all. This isn't just about being cautious or analytical. This is about the profound suffering that comes when our minds become our tormentors. Why do overthinkers suffer so much? It's a question that deserves our deepest attention because the answer holds the key to our liberation. You see, overthinking isn't just thinking too much. It's feeling too much, caring too much, and caring too much. It's like having a supercomputer in your head that never shuts down, processing every possible scenario, every potential outcome, every conceivable risk, until the weight of all those thoughts becomes almost unbearable. But here's what most people don't understand about overthinking. It comes from a place of profound caring. Every overthinker in this room is someone who deeply wants to do the right thing, make the best decision, and avoid causing harm to themselves or your overthinking is, in many ways, a testament to your beautiful heart. Think about that for a moment. Your greatest source of suffering comes from one of your most noble qualities, your desire to do things right, to understand deeply, to care completely. Isn't it ironic that our minds can take something so beautiful and turn it into a source of such pain? Let me share something that might surprise you. Overthinking is often a sign of high intelligence and deep emotional capacity. The problem isn't your ability to think deeply. It's that somewhere along the way, you lost the ability to... Your magnificent mind, capable of solving complex problems and seeing connections others miss, has become like a car without brakes, racing down a mountain road. When you're overthinking, you're trying to control the uncontrollable. You're attempting to predict every possible future, prepare for every possible outcome, protect yourself from every possible hurt. But in doing so, you're missing the only moment you can actually control. This one, right here, right now. I want you to do something with me right now. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath. Feel the weight of all those thoughts you're carrying. All those what-ifs and should-haves and what will they thinks. Feel how heavy they are. Now imagine them as leaves on a stream flowing away from you. Just for this moment, let them go. How does that feel? That lightness, that momentary peace, that's not just a temporary escape. That's a glimpse of your natural state, your birthright. That's what's possible when we learn to break free from the prison of overthinking. But why do we suffer so much? The first reason is that overthinking creates a false sense of control. When we analyze every possibility, we feel like we're doing something productive, like we're protecting ourselves. But in reality, we're just spinning our wheels, getting stuck deeper in the mud of our own thoughts. The second reason is that overthinking disconnects us from our intuition. That deep, knowing part of ourselves that often has the answers we're seeking. When we're caught in the spiral of overthinking, we can't hear that quiet, wise voice within. It's like trying to hear a whisper in a room full of shouting voices, and perhaps, most painfully, overthinking keeps us stuck in either the past or the future, never fully present in the only moment we can actually live in, this one. It's like watching your life through a window instead of stepping outside and actually living it. I see the cost of this suffering in your eyes. I see the exhaustion of carrying all those thoughts. I see the fear of making the wrong decision, the anxiety of uncertain outcomes, the endless replay of conversations and situations that can't be changed. But I also see something else. I see strength. I see resilience. I see people who have carried this burden for so long and still shown up, still tried their best, still cared enough to keep going. You've likely been told to just stop overthinking or just let it go, as if it were that simple. Those well-meaning but misguided suggestions only add to your suffering, don't they? They make you feel like there's something wrong with you, like you should be able to just flip a switch and turn off your thoughts. There's nothing wrong with you. Your overthinking mind developed as a response to something, perhaps childhood experiences where you had to be hypervigilant, or situations where being extremely careful kept you safe. Your overthinking served a purpose once. It protected you. It helped you survive. And now, like a security system that's set too sensitive, is just doing its job too well. Understanding this, truly understanding this stuff, is the first step toward freedom. Because once you recognize that your overthinking comes from a place of protection rather than dysfunction, you can begin to thank that part of yourself while gently showing it a new way. Think about it. Your mind is incredibly powerful. It can create detailed scenarios, analyze complex situations, and imagine multiple futures. These are incredible capabilities. The problem isn't the power of your mind. It's that this power has been misdirected, like a fire hose spraying everywhere instead of focusing on the fire. What if I told you that this same mental power that causes so much suffering could become your greatest strength? What if those same analytical abilities could be channeled into creativity, problem solving, and deep understanding? What if your sensitivity to multiple possibilities could become a superpower instead of a burden? This is where our journey of transformation begins, not with fighting against our overthinking minds, but with understanding them. Not with forcing ourselves to stop thinking, but with learning to direct our thoughts like a skilled conductor leads an orchestra. Not with self-judgment, but with deep self-compassion. In the next part of our journey together, we're going to explore exactly how to do this. We'll discover practical tools and profound insights that will help you transform your relationship with your mind. But before we go there, I want you to remember something crucial. Your overthinking mind isn't your enemy. It's a part of you that's trying its best to help, even if its methods are causing you pain. As we move forward, hold on to this truth. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You just need to learn a new way of working with your magnificent. And that journey, that beautiful, transformative journey, is exactly what we're about to embark on together. Let me share a profound truth that changed everything for me. The suffering of overthinking isn't in the thinking itself. It's in the stories we tell ourselves about our thinking. We've learned to fear our own minds, to see our deep contemplation as a flaw rather than a feature of our unique operating system. I remember standing at the edge of a decision that seemed impossibly complex. It was a simple choice about a career move, but in my mind it had become a tangled web of possibilities, each thread leading to another, each path branching into infinite directions. My thoughts had become a maze with no exit, and I was exhausted from trying to find my way out. But here's what I discovered in that moment of overwhelm. The solution wasn't to try harder to find the way out. The solution was to stop seeing my thoughts as a maze at all. Think about water for a moment. When water meets an obstacle, it doesn't stop and analyze all the possible paths forward. It doesn't worry about making the wrong choice. It simply flows. It finds its natural path. Your thoughts can be like this too. But first, you need to understand something crucial about the nature of thought itself. Thoughts are not facts. They're not commands. They're not prophecies. They're simply weather patterns moving through the sky of your consciousness. Some thoughts are like storm clouds, dark, heavy, threatening. Others are like gentle spring breezes. But you are the sky. Vast, boundless, unchanging. The weather patterns of your thoughts may change, but the sky of your awareness remains constant. This isn't just poetry. This is a fundamental truth that can transform your relationship with overthinking. When you understand that you are not your thoughts, but the awareness in which thoughts appear, everything changes. Consider the last time you were caught in an overthinking spiral. Perhaps it was about a relationship, a work decision, or a conversation that didn't go as planned. Notice how your thoughts created a virtual reality, a simulation of past regrets and future fear. In that simulation, you weren't living. You were merely existing in a mind-made prison of possibility. Here's the liberating truth. You don't have to believe every thought you think. You don't have to follow every mental path that opens before you. You don't have to solve every hypothetical problem your mind creates. This is where real freedom begins. Not in stopping your thoughts, because trying to stop thinking is like trying to stop the ocean's waves, but in changing your relationship with thinking itself. Imagine your mind as a powerful spotlight. When you're overthinking, it's like that spotlight is frantically sweeping back and forth, trying to illuminate everything at once, creating more shadows than clarity. But what if you could steady that beam? What if you could direct it with purpose and precision? The suffering of overthinking comes from the belief that if we think long enough, hard enough, we can eliminate all uncertainty. But uncertainty isn't the enemy. Uncertainty is the field in which possibility grows. It's the space where creativity flourishes. It's the gap between what is and what could be, and that gap is where life actually happens. Think about the most meaningful moments in your life. Did they come from careful planning and endless analysis, or did they arise naturally, often unexpectedly, in moments when you were simply present and open to what life was offering? Your overthinking mind believes it's protecting you from pain, from failure, from judgment. But in its desperate attempt to protect you from life's inherent risk, it's actually protecting you from life itself. It's like wearing a suit of armor to a dance. You might feel safe, but you're missing out on the very experience you came for. But there's hope. There's always hope. Because just as you learn to overthink, you can learn to think differently. You can learn to use your powerful mind in service of your growth rather than letting it limit your potential. The first step is radical acceptance. Accept that your mind will think. Accept that some of those thoughts will be uncomfortable. Accept that certainty is an illusion and control is largely a myth. This acceptance isn't resignation, it's liberation. When you stop fighting against your thinking mind and instead learn to work with it, everything shifts. Instead of being a prison, your mind becomes a garden. Yes, weeds of worry and overthinking will still grow, but you can learn to tend this garden with wisdom and compassion. Your capacity for deep thought is a gift. It's what allows you to understand complex ideas, to empathize deeply with others, to see connections that others might miss. The goal isn't to think less, it's to think better. And to think with purpose rather than fear, with curiosity rather than judgment. Let me share a powerful practice with you. The next time you notice yourself caught in overthinking, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this thought serving my growth or is it serving my fear? This simple question can break the spell of overthinking and bring you back to the present moment. Because that's where life happens, in the present moment, not in the endless corridors of what if, not in the shadows of if only, but right here, right now, in this breath, in this heartbeat. Your overthinking has been a faithful servant, trying to protect you from life's uncertainties. But now it's time to thank that servant and show it a new way. It's time to transform your relationship with your mind from one of fear and resistance to one of partnership and possibility. In the next part of our journey together, we'll explore specific practices and tools that will help you make this transformation real in your daily life. But for now, I want you to hold on to this truth. Your mind is not your enemy. Your thoughts are not your identity. And your capacity for deep thinking, when channeled wisely, is one of your greatest gifts to the world. Take a moment to let that sink in. Feel the possibility of a different relationship with your mind. Feel the potential for freedom that exists when you stop fighting against your thoughts and start dancing with them instead. Now, we're going to dive into something transformative, the practical path to freedom from overthinking's. But before we explore these tools, I want you to understand something crucial. This isn't about quick fixes or temporary solutions. This is about fundamentally changing your relationship with your mind. Picture your thoughts as a rushing river. Until now, you've been in that river, thrashing against the current, exhausting yourself trying to control the flow. What I'm about to share will teach you how to stand on the riverbank, observing those thoughts flow by without being swept away by them. The first key to breaking free is understanding the three primary triggers of overthink: uncertainty, perfectionism, and the need for control. These three forces create a perfect storm in your mind, each feeding into the others in an endless cycle. Uncertainty triggers the need for control. The need for control feeds perfectionism. Perfectionism increases uncertainty. And round we go, caught in a dance that exhausts us while taking us nowhere. The moment you truly accept uncertainty, your need for control begins to dissolve. When your need for control dissolves, perfectionism loses its power. And when perfectionism loses its power, you can finally begin to live. Let me share a powerful truth that changed everything for me. Every moment of growth, every instance of real transformation in my life came not from figuring everything out, but from being willing to step into the unknown. The very uncertainty that your overthinking mind fears is actually the birthplace of possibility. Has your overthinking ever actually prevented something bad from happening, or has it mainly prevented you from fully experiencing what was actually happening? Has all that mental preparation ever made a difficult situation easier? Or has it just stolen the joy from the good moments while adding anxiety to the challenging ones? Here's where we begin to turn the tide. I'm going to share with you 3 powerful practices that can break the cycle of overthinking. These aren't just techniques. They're doorways to a new way of being. The first practice is what I call thought noting. When you notice yourself caught in an overthinking spiral, simply note the nature of the thought. Planning, worrying, remembering, imagining. Don't try to stop the thoughts. Don't judge them. Just note them. This simple act of naming creates a tiny space between you and your thoughts, and in that space, freedom begins to grow. The second practice is reality checking. When you're caught in overthinking, ask yourself 3 questions. What's actually happening right now? What part of this situation do I have direct control over? What's the next small step I can take? These questions bring you back from the maze of possibilities to the solid ground of present reality. The third practice is what I call compassionate redirection. When you catch yourself overthinking, instead of berating yourself, speak to your mind like you would to a worried friend. I understand you're trying to help. I appreciate your concern. Let's focus on what we can do right now. This approach honors the protective intention behind overthinking while gently guiding your mind in a more productive direction. But here's what makes these practices truly powerful. They work together to create a new relationship with your mind. Instead of fighting against your thoughts, you're learning to work with them. Instead of being consumed by possibilities, you're learning to focus on. Instead of getting lost in the future, you're learning to act in the present. Consider this moment right now. Your mind might be racing ahead, thinking about how to implement these practices, wondering if they'll work, imagining all the ways they might fail. Notice that. Notice how quickly your beautiful, powerful mind wants to solve everything at once. And then, with gentle firmness, bring yourself back to this moment. You see, overthinking isn't just a mental habit. It's a way of avoiding the present moment. It's a sophisticated form of escape from the vulnerability of being fully present in your life. When we overthink, we're trying to live in a future that exists only in our minds, while missing the only moment we can actually live in. This one. The path to freedom from overthinking isn't about becoming someone different. It's about returning to who you truly are. Beneath all the layers of analysis, beneath all the what-ifs and should-haves, there's a part of you that knows how to live simply and direct. There's a wisdom in you that doesn't need to calculate every possibility before taking a step. Think about how you were as a child before overthinking became your default mode. Remember that natural spontaneity? That ability to move through life without second-guessing every decision? That capacity hasn't been lost. It's just been buried under layers of learned anxiety and habitual overthinking. Your overthinking mind will tell you that these practices are too simple to work. It will want to complicate them, analyze them, perfect them before trying them. Notice that resistance. It's your overthinking pattern trying to protect itself. But real transformation often comes through simple practices done consistently, not complex solutions understood perfectly. As we move forward, I want you to remember this. Every moment you catch yourself overthinking is an opportunity to practice these tools. Every time you notice your mind spinning out into future scenarios or past regrets is a chance to come back. Every instance of perfectionist paralysis is an invitation to take one small, imperfect action. The goal isn't to never overthink again. That's just another perfectionist trap. The goal is to develop a new relationship with your thinking mind, one based on wisdom and compassion rather than fear and control. It's about learning to use your magnificent mind as a tool it was meant to be rather than letting it use you. Now we arrive at a crucial turning point in our journey. We've understood the nature of overthinking. We've learned powerful practices to work with our minds. But here's where many people get stuck. They understand the concepts, they know the techniques, but when life gets challenging, when the stakes feel high, they fall back into old patterns. This is where we need to go deeper. This is where we transform intellectual understanding into lived wisdom. Because freedom from overthinking isn't just about managing your thoughts. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship with life itself. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a significant decision. Feel the familiar pull of overthinking starting to take hold. But this time, instead of getting caught in the whirlpool of analysis, you pause, you breathe. You remember that you're not just your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thought. This is what I call the practice of conscious presence. It's not about controlling your thoughts or forcing your mind to be quiet. It's about expanding your awareness to include both your thoughts and the space around them. Like the sky that holds both storms and sunshine, you can learn to hold both your overthinking and your peace. But here's where it gets really interesting. When you stop fighting against overthinking and start working with your mind's natural tendencies, something remarkable happens. The very qualities that drive overthinking, attention to detail, deep processing, sensitivity to possibilities, become your greatest strengths. Think about this. What if your overthinking isn't a flaw to fix, but a gift to refine? What if your tendency to analyze deeply isn't a problem to solve, but a power to harness? What if the real issue isn't that you think too much, but that you haven't yet learned how to channel your powerful mind in service of your growth? I see some of you shifting in your seats. This perspective challenges everything you've been told about overthinking. You've probably spent years trying to think less, trying to silence your mind, trying to be more normal. But what if normal isn't the goal? What if your unique way of processing the world is exactly what the world needs? The world needs deep thinkers. It needs people who can see multiple perspectives, who can anticipate consequences, who can understand complex systems. But it needs these deep thinkers to be free from the paralysis of overthinking, to be able to channel their gifts with purpose and clarity. This is where we begin to turn overthinking into deep thinking. Deep thinking is overthinking transformed by wisdom. It's the ability to think deeply when needed and to rest in simplicity when appropriate. It's the wisdom to know the difference. Every moment of overthinking contains within it a seed of wisdom. Your worry about the future points to your capacity for foresight. Your analysis of past interactions reveals your empathy and desire for connection. Your concern about making the right choice shows your commitment to living with integrity. The key is learning to extract the wisdom while letting go of the worry, to honor the insight while releasing the anxiety, to keep the pearl of truth while dissolving the grit of overthinking that formed it. This is where those three practices we discussed earlier become transformative. Thought noting helps you identify the wisdom hidden in your overthinking. Reality checking helps you apply that wisdom to the present moment. Compassionate redirection helps you stay on track without falling into self-judgment. But now we're going to take these practices deeper. Instead of just noting your thoughts, start noting the intelligence behind them. What valid concern is your overthinking trying to address? What important value is it trying to protect? What deep wisdom is it trying to access? When you do this, something remarkable happens. Your overthinking begins to transform. Instead of an endless spiral of anxiety, it becomes a tool for deeper understanding. Instead of a prison that traps you, it becomes a lens that helps you see more clearly. Think about a recent situation where you caught yourself overthinking. Maybe it was about a relationship, a career decision, or a personal challenge. Now, instead of seeing that overthinking as a problem, look for the wisdom within it. What was your mind trying to tell you? What valid concerns were buried beneath the anxiety? This is where real transformation happens, not in fighting against your nature, but in aligning with it. Not in silencing your mind, but in teaching it to speak more wisely. Not in becoming someone else, but in becoming more fully yourself. You see, your overthinking mind isn't your enemy. It's like a brilliant, but overeager assistant who needs clear direction. It's not about firing the assistant. It's about becoming a better manager. It's about learning to direct your mind's incredible power toward what truly matters. Every great innovation, every profound work of art, every significant advancement in human understanding came from someone thinking deeply about something. The difference between overthinking and breakthrough thinking isn't in the amount of thought. It's in the quality of thought. It's in the ability to think with purpose rather than fear, with curiosity rather than anxiety. This is your invitation to step into a new relationship with your mind, to see your tendency toward deep thought not as a burden to overcome, but as a gift to refine, to transform your overthinking from a source of suffering into a source of wisdom. The world doesn't need you to think less. It needs you to think better. It needs your depth, your sensitivity, your careful consideration, but it needs these qualities to be guided by wisdom rather than fear, by purpose rather than anxiety. We've come to the most powerful part of our journey together. This is where everything we've explored transforms from understanding into embodied wisdom. This is where your relationship with overthinking changes forever. Take a deep breath with me. Feel the weight of all the years you've spent wrestling with your mind. Feel the exhaustion of trying to think your way out of overthinking. Feel the longing for peace that lives. Now let's turn that longing into liberation. The truth is, you've always had the capacity for peace. It's your natural state. Underneath all the layers of overthinking, beneath all the strategies and defenses, there's a quiet presence that knows exactly how to live without excessive analysis, without constant questioning, without endless doubt. But here's what makes this moment different from any other time you've tried to change. You're no longer trying to fix yourself. You're no longer fighting against your mind. You're no longer seeing your sensitivity and depth as problems to solve. So you're learning to channel these qualities into genuine wisdom. Think about water again. When water is turbulent, it reflects everything in broken, chaotic patterns. But when water is still, it reflects reality perfectly. Your mind is the same way. The problem isn't that you think too much. It's that your thoughts have been stirred up by fear, by should-haves, by what-ifs. The path forward isn't about adding more techniques or strategies to your mental toolkit. It's about remembering who you are beneath the overthinking. It's about reclaiming your natural clarity, your innate wisdom, your authentic way of being in the world. Every single person in this room has experienced moments of natural clarity. Times when you knew exactly what to do without analysis. Times when you moved through life with grace and ease. Times when your mind served you instead of controlling you. Those moments weren't flukes. They were glimpses of your true nature. Your overthinking began as a way to protect yourself, to make sense of the world, to try to control the uncontrollable. It was a child's solution to an adult's challenges, but now you're ready for a more mature relationship with your mind. You're ready to transform overthinking into wisdom. This transformation isn't about reaching some perfect state where you never overthink again. It's about developing a new kind of relationship with your thoughts. It's about learning to dance with your mind instead of being dragged along by it. Every time you notice yourself overthinking, it's an opportunity to practice presence. Every anxiety spiral is an invitation to return to the present moment. Every bout of analysis paralysis is a chance to trust your deeper wisdom. The key is remembering that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts arise. This isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a lived reality that can transform your experience in any moment. When you find yourself caught in overthinking, remember, you don't have to believe every thought you think. You don't have to follow every mental path that opens before you. You don't have to solve every problem your mind creates. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply pause, breathe, and return to the present moment. Your mind is like a magnificent garden. Overthinking thoughts are like weeds that have been allowed to grow unchecked. But instead of trying to rip out these weeds forcefully, you're learning to tend your mental garden with wisdom and care. You're learning to cultivate thoughts that serve your growth while letting go of thoughts that keep you stuck. This is where true freedom lies. Not in having no thoughts, but in being free to choose which thoughts to engage with. Not in never overthinking, but in knowing how to return to clarity when overthinking arises. Not in being perfect, but in being authentically, powerfully yourself. As we come to the end of our time together, I want you to remember this. Your overthinking was never a flaw in your character. It was a misguided attempt to find certainty in an uncertain world, to find safety in a world of constant change. But now you know a deeper truth. That real security comes not from controlling your thoughts, but from connecting with your innate wisdom. You are not broken. You don't need fixing. You just needed to remember who you are beneath the noise of an overthinking mind. You needed to reconnect with your natural clarity, your innate wisdom, your authentic way of being in the world. Take a moment now to feel the possibility of this new relationship with your mind. Feel the potential for peace that exists when you stop fighting against your thoughts and start working with them. Feel the freedom that comes from knowing you are not your overthinking. You are the awareness in which, as you leave this room today, carry this truth with you. Every moment is a new opportunity to choose presence over overthinking, wisdom over worry, trust over control. Every breath is a chance to return to your natural clarity. Every challenge is an invitation to trust your deeper wisdom. You have everything you need within you right now. The peace you seek isn't something you need to achieve. It's something you need to uncover. The wisdom you long for isn't something you need to learn. It's something you need to remember. Remember, the goal isn't to never overthink again. The goal is to develop such a strong connection with your authentic self that overthinking no longer controls your life. The goal is to transform your relationship with your mind from one of conflict to one of collaboration. You are more than your thoughts. You are more than your overthinking. You are the vast, peaceful awareness in which all thoughts arise and pass away. And in that awareness lies the freedom you've been seeking all along. Let this be the moment when everything changes. Let this be the moment when you begin a new relationship with your mind. Let this be the moment when you step into your natural clarity, your innate wisdom, your authentic power. The journey of transformation is now yours to continue. Trust yourself. Trust your deeper wisdom. Trust that every step you take away from overthinking is a step toward freedom. The peace you seek has always been within you. Now you know how to find it. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. May you walk forward with courage, with wisdom, and with the unshakable knowledge that you are so much more than your overthinking mind. You are, and have always been, exactly who you need to be.